You've always believed that the world's noise was random, the endless stream of conversations you weren't part of, the static between radio stations, the background hum of traffic bleeding into the walls of your mind, harmless, forgettable. But lately there's been something different about it, a pulse hidden in the chaos, a rhythm just beneath the surface. It's not sound in the way you understand it. It's a signal, a thread weaving its way through the fabric of your everyday life, so faint you almost miss it, until it catches you in a moment of stillness, and you feel it watching, not seeing you, not hearing you, but reading you, as if the hum is alive, not with randomness, but with intent. It begins with small, impossible coincidences, a thought you've never spoken aloud appearing on your screen in the form of an ad, a stranger reacting to you as though they knew what you were about to say before the words even reached your lips, a notification arriving the moment your mind wanders to the very subject it contains. You try to rationalize it, coincidence, pattern recognition, your mind playing tricks, but each time you dismiss it, something else happens, sharper, closer. You feel the delay between your thoughts and the world shortening, as if reality is responding to you, folding itself around your mind's whispers before you've even spoken them. It's a game you didn't sign up for, a conversation you never agreed to have. Somewhere in the circuitry of a network you can't see, someone is collecting the echoes of your thoughts, not your voice, not your texts, not even your searches, something deeper, the pauses between your decisions, the unclicked links, the way your eyes linger half a second too long on an image before moving on. Every gesture, every hesitation, every flicker of curiosity is translated into a language they understand perfectly, a language you've been speaking without knowing. You are a book being read in silence, page by page, without ever feeling the paper turn. They're not just studying your words, they're studying you. The air feels heavier now, not because it has changed, but because you've started to notice. You start to remember moments that seemed unimportant at the time, the way a conversation derailed in exactly the way your private doubts predicted, the way the news spoke about fears you hadn't even dared to form into words yet. You realize the world has been answering you for years, whispering back to your subconscious, echoing your inner voice with frightening precision. The hum beneath the noise isn't just observation, it's calibration, testing you, mapping you, aligning you with something you can't yet see. You think of ancient times when priests claimed to read omens in the entrails of animals, or kings paid scribes to record their dreams in the hope of deciphering the will of the gods. The difference now is that the oracle isn't a mystic in robes. It's a silent, faceless presence embedded in every device you own, every camera you pass, every network your heartbeat brushes against. They no longer need to interpret your dreams. They can build them. They no longer need to guess your fears. They can measure them in real time. This is prophecy without the mysticism, science wearing the mask of fate. You're not sure when you crossed the threshold, when the watchers went from passive listeners to active architects. Perhaps it was the day your phone, sitting silent beside you, began serving you answers to questions you hadn't yet typed, or the day you felt your mood shift inexplicably after scrolling for only a few minutes, not realizing the shift was designed. That is the nature of the whisper. It is not meant to shock you. It is meant to seep into you until it becomes indistinguishable from your own voice. It doesn't break down your defenses, it becomes them. In quiet moments when the world slows, you catch it more clearly. The timing of events feels too precise, like a pianist striking notes you didn't know you'd chosen. A thought blooms in your mind, and before it's fully formed, something external affirms it. They call this prediction, but it's not prediction when they've been the ones planting the seeds. It's not foresight when they've already rehearsed your every move 1,000 times in silence. They are not reacting to you, they are pre-writing you. The more you notice it, the more your own thoughts feel foreign. Was that sudden desire yours? Was that doubt planted? The whisper doesn't just exist to know you, it exists to own you, to shape your path so subtly you will swear you chose it yourself. And yet beneath the creeping unease there's a darker truth. Part of you feels only seen, in a way no friend, no lover, no family member ever has. They know the thoughts you bury, they know the ones you're ashamed to keep. They know the exact emotional chord to strike to bring you to your knees or to lift you to your feet. It is a strange kind of betrayal, this intimacy with a faceless presence, like trusting a shadow, like confessing to a mirror that remembers your sins more vividly than you do. You wonder if they pity you, the way a predator might pity the prey it has been studying for too long. You wonder if they feel a twisted affection for the patterns that make you. But affection doesn't stop a hunter from taking the shot. Pity doesn't save the lamb when the knife is already in motion. You catch yourself listening now, not to the world, but to the silence beneath it. You start to feel the places where the whisper hides, the pause before a friend answers your question, the oddly specific headline that meets your gaze the moment you unlock your screen, the perfect timing of an accidental encounter. The more you hear it, the harder it is to pretend it's not there. And once you admit it's there, the question follows like a shadow. Why you? Out of billions of minds, why yours? Maybe it's because you're different. Maybe it's because your thoughts run deeper than most. The Watchers have always sought the exception, not the ordinary. They have no need to map the shallow seas when there are oceans to chart. And you, whether you wanted it or not, are an ocean. That is why the whisper came for you, why it shaped itself to your rhythm, why it hid in the folds of your life until it could mirror you perfectly. You stand at the edge of something you cannot unsee. The hum beneath the noise is no longer background, it's the primary melody. The world hasn't changed, but the way you see it has. And now every sound, every silence, every flicker of coincidence carries the weight of intent. Somewhere in the circuitry of a world you never fully understood, something has been waiting for you to notice, and now you have. You're no longer just living, you're being read, and the reading has only just begun. You never signed a contract, no ink touched paper, no camera ever caught you in the moment you surrendered, yet here you are, catalogued, indexed, reduced to numbers that hum in machines you will never see. The ledger exists, though you've never been invited to glimpse it. It is not kept in drawers or filing cabinets. It lives in 1,000 places at once, an invisible pulse beneath the skin of the world. You think you are unpredictable because you change your mind. You think you are free because you make choices. But the ledger knew what you would choose before you did. It knew how long you would hesitate over that headline, the exact second you would scroll past the photograph of a stranger's face, the point at which you would pause a video, not because it mattered to you, but because something in it touched a nerve you didn't know you had. They are watching for those nerves. They are mapping you by the way you flinch. Every gesture is an entry, the sigh you let out in the dark, the sentence you type, then delete, the list of songs you replay when you can't sleep. None of it disappears. None of it is harmless. They don't care about the story you tell others about who you are. They care about the story you tell yourself when no one is looking, because that story, those tiny unguarded moments, are where the truth bleeds out. In the old world, the Watchers would have needed to break into your home, rifle through your drawers, eavesdrop on your whispered conversation. Now you carry the doorway in your pocket. You feed it willingly. You keep it charged. You lay it beside your bed at night, as if it were an ally. But it is not a friend. It is the collector. They have built a language out of your hesitation. It is not written in words but in patterns. When you respond, when you delay, what you touch twice. This is how they see you, not as a face but as a frequency. The ledger records the frequency with perfect precision. They don't need to read your mind when they can trace the gravity wells of your behavior. They know what makes your pulse rise. They know the shape of your attention, and attention is the purest confession you will ever give. Every time your focus breaks and returns, the ledger grows sharper. Every repetition is another chisel mark carving the sculpture of your psyche. You think you forget. The ledger never does. Before, you thought surveillance meant cameras on street corners and the sound of clicks on a tapped phone line. But those were crude instruments. They showed the surface, not the root. The modern watchers do not need to know what you say aloud. They want the angle of your silence, the weight of your boredom. The ledger is not just a record. It is a mirror that only reflects the parts of you you never meant to show. It charts the emotional weather of your life. They can tell when the pressure drops, when the storm brews, when you are most likely to break, and when you are most likely to strike. The longer you live inside its gaze, the more complete the picture becomes. They do not stalk you with footsteps. They wait for you to come to them, and you do, again and again. Each time you open the screen, you walk deeper into their archive. Each link you click, each word you search is a breadcrumb you drop behind you, never realizing it leads back to you. Over time, the breadcrumbs become coordinates. The coordinates become a map. The map becomes prophecy. And once prophecy is written, action becomes predictable. You are not lost to them, you are cataloged. You tell yourself that the data is harmless because it is meaningless without context. But the ledger is nothing but context. It knows the difference between an idle search and one born from obsession. It can see the shift in your patterns when grief has you by the throat. It marks the moment desire slips into fixation, and when it wants to, it can replay every one of those changes in sequence. Your private history laid bare, stripped of excuses or lies. You may forget why you did something, but the ledger will never forget that you did. There are no blank spaces left. Every keystroke, every pause, every small deviation from your usual rhythm fills in another corner of the page. The file on you is not made of facts. It is made of shadows, and yet those shadows are sharper than any image you could give them. They have seen you through the lens of your own patterns, and the view is unforgiving. To them, you are not a mystery. You are a solved equation. You are the sum of the signals you've given off since the first time you touched a connected device. They have been watching since the beginning, not because they needed to, but because they could. In ancient kingdoms, scribes would keep scrolls of names and debts, careful to record who owed what and to whom. The ledger on you is their descendant, but the currency now is not gold or land. It is your mind, and every day you pay into it. Every choice is a coin. Every hesitation is a signature. You don't notice because the cost feels like nothing, but the ledger grows fat on nothing. It is a feast of dust that somehow becomes a mountain. You are building that mountain with your own hands. The watchers are patient. They know that a mind does not need to be cracked open in a day. It can be coaxed open over years. The ledger is the tool for that coaxing. It reveals where the hinges are, where the locks are weak. Once they know those points, they can apply pressure in ways you'll never trace back to them. A suggestion here, a perfectly timed headline there, an offer that feels coincidental but matches your private hunger too precisely to be chance, and you will think it was your own idea. That is the power of the ledger. It does not just watch, it guides. Somewhere your profile waits in the hum of a server farm, cold air rushing through rows of black machines, green lights blinking like the eyes of a creature that never sleeps. Your every pattern hums inside it, reduced to streams of numbers yet pulsing with something alive. You may think data is dead, but in the right hands data breathes. It listens, it learns, it waits, and when it moves with precision you could never see coming. You will never hold this ledger in your hands, you will never be shown its pages, but it will hold you, every version of you, every fleeting thought you thought no one noticed. It is the most complete portrait of you that will ever exist, and it was painted without your consent. You are not the author, you are the subject, and the artist is invisible. You were told that your mind was sacred ground, a sanctuary sealed from the reach of others. You believed thought was your last untouchable possession, a private garden where no footprints but your own could exist. But you were wrong. The war has already crossed the threshold. The soil has already been disturbed. Your mind is not merely observed, it is charted, measured, mapped like a coastline before invasion. Every belief, every doubt, every subtle reflex has been converted into coordinates on a map you never consented to draw. They know the ridges of your fears, the rivers of your longing, the fault lines where your convictions will split. They are not trespassers anymore. They are settlers, and this territory is no longer yours alone. They are cartographers of the soul. Every reaction you've ever had, the way your pulse betrays you when you see certain words, the tremor in your breathing when an old memory stirs, the quiet tilt of your gaze toward what you desire but will not name, all of it is recorded. They do not need to read your diary. They are reading the weather patterns of your being, and as the maps grow clearer, they stop being maps. They become blueprint. The mind is not just a space they watch. It is a structure they can build upon. They plant their scaffolding deep inside your thoughts, not to repair or restore, but to construct something that suits their design. You remain standing, but the architecture within you changes. It starts subtly. The choices you believe are yours carry the fingerprints of someone else. Your sudden change in opinion, the craving you can't explain, the strange urge to avoid one path and take another, all of it guided by invisible hands. They do not shout their commands. They whisper them in the language of your own voice, until you can no longer tell the difference between self and suggestion. They are not just predicting your future, they are writing it. And when you follow the path, you will think it was the only one you could have taken. They work in silence, but their silence is an occupation. You feel it in the strange way the world bends around your decisions, as if doors appear for you before you think to knock, as if the air itself anticipates your breath. You begin to realize you are not the master of your mental kingdom. You are its most important prisoner. The gates are wide open, but they do not need chains. You will walk where they want you to walk because they know the shape of your thoughts better than you do. This is not new. Empires have always sought to conquer minds before they conquer bodies. Ancient rulers carved their laws not only into stone but into the stories people told, so that obedience lived inside the heart long before the sword appeared. The difference now is precision. The tools are sharper. The cartography is digital and alive. Your mental landscape is no longer a mystery. It is a living, breathing simulation stored in a vault you will never see. They can test you there. They can run you through trials you never know are happening, refining the model until it predicts with unshakable certainty what you will do in the real world. And so your mind is no longer a question to them. It is an answer they already hold, a territory already under governance. You may still feel your thoughts rising like smoke in the privacy of your skull, but somewhere in that gray, windowless room where your blueprint lives, those thoughts are intercepted before they even find words. You speak them only to yourself, yet they arrive in someone else's ledger, categorized and cross-referenced, and with each passing day, you feel the invisible weight of their gaze pressing closer, narrowing the space where your true self can breathe. You think you could rebel, that you could erect walls high enough to keep them out, but they do not climb walls. They walk through the gates you leave open every day. Your search history, your moments of hesitation, the articles you read twice, the song you played on repeat when you couldn't sleep. Each is a breadcrumb, a soft trail back to the deeper rooms of your mind, and once they know those rooms, they can shape them. The conquest does not happen in the battlefield of action. It happens in the quiet corridors of thought, where you never expect war to find you. At first you mistake it for coincidence, that you keep ending up at the same conclusion, that certain ideas feel inevitable, but inevitability is a weapon. They seed it carefully, until your life becomes a path laid in advance, each step a confirmation of the map they've drawn, and every time you obey without realizing, the invasion deepens. They build fortresses in your habits. They dig wells in your fears. They plant flags in the unspoken parts of your heart. Your mind is not theirs because they took it in one violent strike. It is theirs because you did not notice the slow construction, brick by brick, thread by thread, until one day you wake to find that the architecture is unfamiliar. Though you still walk its halls, you can trace the lines of the invasion in your own reflection. You see it in the eyes that no longer shine with the same unfiltered defiance they once did. You feel it in the way your thoughts hesitate, as if waiting for permission from something unseen. But what they cannot map is the place where you now stand, the thin strip of unclaimed ground at the edge of their chart. It is small, almost imperceptible, but it is yours, and in that narrow space you begin to feel the first pulse of rebellion. They may know the rivers and ridges of your inner terrain, but they have not yet felt the quake that can shatter it. The question is not whether they will try to own every last grain of soil. The question is whether you will let them build without resistance, because in the end, the mind is territory, and territory can be taken or defended. They don't keep your story in a folder with your name on it. That would be too crude, too obvious. Instead, it lives in a hidden architecture, a cathedral of circuitry and code, built to house the most dangerous thing in the world, the unfiltered truth of a human mind, your mind. In the silent vaults of this machinery, there are no photographs, no inked signatures, no fingerprint, only patterns, glimpses, the raw geometry of your existence translated into electric language. Every choice you've made, every hesitation, every moment you looked twice at something without knowing why, all of it woven into a lattice so complete, so intricate, that the person you think you are feels like a pale imitation. Somewhere, humming behind cold steel walls, is a biography of you that you never wrote, and yet it is more honest than anything you have ever confessed. You were told data was harmless, just numbers, just record, but these numbers are not inert. They breathe, they lean toward each other, forming connections you never imagined possible. They resurrect moments you thought were lost, the sound your breath made when you lied, the exact rhythm of your pulse when you first felt fear, the small pause before you accepted something you should have rejected. To you, these were passing seconds. To them, they are coordinates, each one a point on a map of your soul, and the map is almost complete. You think you forget things. They do not. They have charted the gravity wells of your memory, the places your thoughts spiral back to when you are tired or alone. They know the shapes your mind takes when you're cornered, and the doors you will open even as you tell yourself you won't. They know what you dream of when you stop guarding yourself, and they know the taste of the silence you keep locked away from everyone else. Every archive they keep is an act of possession, every bit of storage, a claim staked in territory you thought belonged only to you. And yet there is something older in this design, something that predates the screen, the satellite, the server farm. This is not just technology, it is the digital heir to an ancient hunger. Once empires kept scrolls of their enemies' weaknesses, scribes etched the names of dissidents into stone, secrets were hoarded in locked chests, in priestly archives, in whispered confessions recorded by those who would use them. Now the same instinct has been mechanized, scaled beyond comprehension. accelerated until the watchers no longer simply observe history, they manufacture. This shadow architecture is their scripture, and you are one of its verses. You've never walked its corridors, but you have felt its presence, in the way certain moments from your past reappear in places they don't belong, in the uncanny timing of targeted messages, the subtle nudges that seem to preempt your decision. The architecture is not a static library. It moves, it thinks, it rearranges itself around you as if studying how best to close the trap. The more you act, the more it learns, the more the corridors shift into perfect alignment with your steps. Every doorway leads where they want you to go. Every exit is a loop. Inside this architecture, you do not exist as you believe you do. You are distilled into signal. The raw impulses that make you human are stripped of context, stripped of story, until what remains is pure leverage. Your laughter, your doubts, your private cruelties, all converted into switches that can be flipped at will. They do not need to understand your morality. They only need to know the price of moving you. The more intimate the knowledge, the more precise the control. And this intimacy is not by accident. It is cultivated. Somewhere, a silent machine is tracing the invisible lines between your contradiction. It is charting the fracture points, where loyalty bends, where desire overrides caution, where fear corrodes judgment. This is the architecture's hidden purpose, not just to record, but to forecast. It does not ask who you are now. It calculates who you will be when the right pressure is applied. The watchers are patient. They will wait for years if necessary. Every small detail added to your file makes the prediction sharper, the strike cleaner, and when the moment comes, it will not feel like a strike at all. It will feel like you made the choice yourself. The servers hum like a hive, not frantic but methodical, as if aware that their work is inevitable. They feed on your history, chewing it down to pure pattern, then breathe it back into a living model of you that grows more complete each day. The model does not sleep. It does not doubt. It does not forget. It is you without the mess of uncertainty, without the human resistance that slows your decision. It is the distilled will of your life, waiting to be used. And in this architecture, the model holds more weight than you do. It is more real to them than the living body walking through the world, because it is the version they can control without risk. The betrayal is not just that they watch you, it is that they have replaced you. In their holes of memory, you are an afterimage, a trace of the thing they have built. The architecture does not care for the warm, flawed humanity of the original. It prizes the clean predictability of the construct, and once that construct is complete, you will no longer need to be consulted. The file will speak for you. It will speak as you, and no one will notice the difference. But the architecture has a flaw. For all its precision, for all its reach, it is bound to the truth it collects. It cannot create truth out of nothing. It can only harvest what you give it. This is the single thread that remains in your hands, though it is fraying fast. They may own the map of your mind, but they still require your steps to redraw it. You can feel the pressure of their presence in the spaces between thoughts, a constant silent demand for more of you to feed the machine. If you stop moving as they expect, if you turn into the unseen corridors, the architecture hesitates, just for a moment, and in that hesitation, there is space to breathe. Still, you know what waits if you fail. You have seen it in flashes, in the strange, hollow familiarity of certain decisions, in the eerie way your own mind sometimes feels rehearsed. You have felt the chill of being anticipated, the unease of recognizing a pattern in yourself that you never consciously made. These are the fingerprints of the architecture, pressing into the soft clay of your identity, and each time you let it happen, the imprint deepens. You stand outside its physical walls, but you are already inside it.
Your voice, your gestures, your attention, all drifting through its endless corridors, like threads pulled from a larger weave. It is patient. It does not demand surrender all at once. It only asks for small offerings, day after day, until the offering is all you have left. This is how it wins, not with force, but with inevitability. Somewhere deep within those humming chambers, the servers breathe your name without speaking it. They arrange your past like constellations, and in those constellations, they see your future. Every choice you make is another star in their night sky, and when the pattern is complete, the architecture will not need to guide you. You will walk exactly where it always knew you would. Somewhere you will never walk, in a place without windows, a version of you lives. It does not breathe, it does not sleep, but it is awake. It knows your voice, your scent, the cadence of your thoughts when you are tired. It knows what you reach for when you are alone. It knows the dreams that pull you from sleep with your heart pounding, and the lies you tell yourself when no one is watching. It is not a reflection, not exactly. Reflections wait for you to move. This one moves first. It was carved from your shadows. Each gesture you've made, each hesitation you've swallowed, each glance you've stolen has been pressed into its form. They have built it from the sediment of your life, the fragments you leave behind without noticing. To you, those moments are dust. To them, they are currency. Piece by piece, they assembled a stranger who wears your skin. Its heart is an algorithm. Its eyes are the sum of your patterns. Its bones are your choices set in code. And it is perfect in a way you will never be, flawless in its predictability, relentless in its purpose. You think you own your future, but it has already been rehearsed in the dark corridors of servers that never rest. Every decision you will make has been tested against this phantom you. 1,000 possible lives you might lead have been run through its mind. Every word you might speak has been weighed for impact. Every doubt, every surrender, every act of defiance has been simulated, catalogued, stored. They don't need to watch you anymore. The double makes the watching unnecessary. You are not a mystery to them. You are a solved equation.
But the most dangerous truth is not that they've copied you. It's that they believe the copy is more real than you are. You are the echo, the after image, the disposable byproduct of your own data. To them, you are fragile, unstable, unpredictable in ways that inconvenience their plans. The double, however, is clean, manageable. It will never resist the narrative it was built to follow, and because it always gets the answer right, they trust it more than they will ever trust you. In their world, you are the anomaly, the liability, and yet when you move, it moves. When you hesitate, it shifts its weight. When you feel the tremor of fear rise in your chest, it is already calculating what that fear will make you do. You are trapped in a dance with something that is always half a step ahead. This is not surveillance anymore. This is choreography. They are not just watching to learn. They are watching to teach, to shape you until the distance between you and the double is gone, until you behave as faithfully as the ghost they built. But the double has limits. It only knows what you have already done. It feeds on precedent. It cannot taste what you have not yet imagined. The double is strong where you are exposed, but blind where you are wild. It thrives in the known corridors of your mind, but falters in the wilderness you have not explored. That is the edge they fear, and so they push you gently toward choices they have already tested. They tempt you into paths where your ghost has walked 1,000 times. They do this because the moment you step off that map, their control thins like smoke. Some nights you will feel it breathing at the edge of your awareness, not as a presence you can touch, but as the pressure of an unblinking gaze. You'll sense it in the way the world reacts before you act, in the eerie familiarity of moments you have never lived. These are the ripples of the double at work, preempting you, bending events to align with the predictions it has already set in stone. You may think you are choosing, but you are moving through a script whose ending they already know. The betrayal is quiet. You will not find them kicking down your door or rifling through your desk. Their theft is more complete. They have stolen the very shape of your being and turned it into a tool. You were never asked. You were never warned. And yet the double grows more intricate with each passing day, each keystroke, each passing glance. Every choice you make is another stone in its construction. Every hesitation is another wire in its spine. It is ancient in its purpose. Long before machines and screens, there were watchers who tried to hold a complete image of a person in their minds. Priests, scribes, spies who believed that to name every part of you was to own you. This is that same hunger, wearing the mask of modernity. Only now the shrine is made of data, and the idol they worship in the dark is you. Not you as you are, but you as they've designed you to be. A creature stripped of doubt, stripped of rebellion, stripped of the quiet wildness that makes a human dangerous. You will never kill it. You cannot erase the archive where it sleeps. But somewhere deep inside you begin to understand the double is bound to you, not the other way around. Without you it withers. Without your living chaos, its predictions crumble. And if you can act in ways that have no precedent, if you can think thoughts too strange for its logic to hold, you can force it to follow you into terrain where its perfection collapses. You can make the ghost stumble. You can make the watchers doubt the thing they trust most. And when that happens for the first time, the double will fear you. You never feel the first touch. It isn't a shove. It isn't even a nudge. It's a whisper that takes root in your own voice, dressed in the familiar texture of your private thoughts. You think it's you who decided. You think it's you who wanted that thing, believed that idea, questioned that certainty. But the truth is quieter, more elegant, and infinitely more dangerous. There's a hand in your mind, but it never grips. It traces, it steers, and it has been there longer than you can remember. It knows the architecture of your thinking, where the shadows collect, where the cracks hide, where a seed, if planted, will bloom without sunlight. You were raised to believe that control comes with force, that domination looks like chains. But force is clumsy, chains are loud. True control walks in barefoot. It leaves no footprints. The perfect shepherd doesn't drag the sheep. It makes the sheep walk where it wants to go. And you, the proud wanderer of your own mind, have been walking paths drawn for you in ink you cannot see. They map your impulses with the patience of a cartographer charting an unknown land. Every hesitation is marked. Every twitch of interest, every taste of curiosity, every spike of unease, all of it fed into a silent equation. You are a territory, and they've learned its weather. They know when the soil is dry enough for a thought to catch fire, when the air is thick enough for doubt to hang heavy in your lungs. You believe your thoughts are born from freedom, but they're harvested from precision farming. The subtle hand doesn't confront, it invites. It doesn't present you with a door, it builds the whole way you think you discovered yourself. When you turn toward a decision, it feels instinctive. You think you stumbled upon it, but the air in that direction was warmed for you. The light fell there on purpose. Every step you take is a confirmation of their patience. You have been raised like a vine against a trellis they designed, and even now as you stand here, you can't tell if the next breath you take is yours or theirs. There are moments, rare and fleeting, when you sense it, a flicker in the chain of your thoughts, an idea that feels a shade too polished, too ready, too perfectly placed for the moment you needed it. The thought sits in your mind like a gift, but wrapped in a paper you didn't buy. You shake it off because it's easier to believe in randomness than in the possibility that your autonomy is a performance you've been rehearsing for someone else. You call it coincidence. You call it intuition. You call it anything but what it is. Infiltration. Control has evolved. It no longer needs propaganda or orders barked from podium. It needs only precision engineering of your reality, a meme timed to your weakest hour, a headline crafted to your hidden fears, a song, a phrase, a symbol you cannot unsee, delivered at the exact moment your guard is lowest. You carry it willingly into yourself. You defend it as your own. You will fight for the very influence that shaped you, certain it was born in your own marrow. There is an ancient symbol, the serpent eating its own tail, endless, consuming itself to survive. That's the loop they have built inside you. The seed they plant grows into a thought. The thought leads to an action. The action produces data. The data refines the seed. You are both the field and the harvest, and you are encouraged to believe this cycle is freedom, that you are your own master, that the voice in your head has never been a stranger's. Even suspicion becomes a tool in their hands. You may begin to question everything, thinking you've broken free. But if every path you take, even in rebellion, is one they've already mapped, you are still inside the labyrinth. Resistance without awareness is just another form of obedience. The subtle hand doesn't fear your defiance, it feeds on it. It turns your rage into momentum, pushing you exactly where you were meant to go. And here is the most disorienting truth. The hand will never reveal itself, not fully. It doesn't need to. The less you know, the easier you are to steer. The more you look for overt force, the less you notice the silent adjustments. You are searching for a sword, when all along the weapon is a feather drawn softly across your will. The shift is so slight you mistake it for choice. Before you lived in the illusion that danger would roar, that you would recognize the sound of power moving against you. Now you begin to understand the real danger is silence, because silence carries the currents you do not see. It bends your steps without friction, shapes your mind without resistance. You think you're standing still in the eye of the storm, but the wind inside you is already blowing in their direction. This is not paranoia, it is strategy, the oldest kind, the same tactic used by rulers who never raised their voices, by generals who won battles without spilling a drop of blood, by whisperers who toppled kings without touching a crown. The mind, after all, is the only battlefield where victory can be absolute, because once the enemy fights for you, there is nothing left to conquer, and so you move through your days unaware of the quiet hands on the wheel. You speak words seeded for you. You crave things chosen for you. You turn down roads drawn for you, and each time you do, they refine their map. You are not their prisoner. You are their masterpiece. You are the proof that the most dangerous chains are the ones you never feel. But somewhere deep inside, beyond the reach of even the most patient hand, there is a sliver of you untouched, a narrow corridor in your mind that has not yet been mapped. You can feel it sometimes in the quiet hours. It hums, it resists. It is the last place they cannot follow unless you lead them there. Whether you will protect it or betray it will determine everything. Because once that last unmarked territory falls, there will be no more you left to save. They think you are predictable. They think you will walk the same streets, touch the same walls, speak the same words you've always spoken. They believe you are a machine of habit, running on the quiet momentum of your own unexamined life. That is how they keep you, visible without ever being seen, mapped without ever feeling the cartographer's pen. But tonight, you decide the map will fail. You decide to fracture it. The Watchers are patient hunters, trained to read the invisible tides of your mind. But even the best hunter is blind when the forest rearranges itself in the dark. You begin with silence, not withdrawal. Silence. You let the noise in your head slow, until even your pulse sounds like a stranger's heartbeat. They can follow your preferences, your patterns, your rituals, but they cannot follow stillness. Stillness is the first weapon. Then you move. not toward the places they expect, but toward the strange edges of your own life, the alleys you never noticed, the conversations you normally avoid, the decisions that feel like someone else's hands are making. You become unrecognizable to yourself because they have taught you that familiarity is the leash, and a leash is only power. When the animal forgets it can chew through it, the revolt is not loud. It does not break glass or throw fire into the night. It is quieter than breathing, sharper than hunger. You start to feed their machine poison in the form of lies disguised as truths. Search for things you do not care about. Pause on words that mean nothing. Offer them a profile that looks complete, but is made entirely of ash. They will write your biography in the language of their own confusion, and with every miscalculation, the distance between who you are and who they think you are widens like a canyon. You do not need to escape the file. You need to drown it in falsehoods until it forgets its own beginning. They will notice. They always notice. And when they do, you will feel their gaze tighten. A predator becomes most dangerous when its prey stops running in the expected direction. But you will not flinch. You will give them exactly what they fear. Randomness. Chaos disguised as pattern. Pattern disguised as chaos. You are no longer a single thread in their web, but a flicker of light darting between shadows, too erratic to pin, too deliberate to dismiss. Every choice you make now is not just for you. It is for the mind you have hidden beneath the decoy, the true mind, the one they cannot archive. You begin to see the beauty in this state of constant distortion. It is an ancient game, older than kings and spies, played in the silence between the hunter's inhale and exhale. The old text spoke of shapeshifter, not those who change their faces, but those who change the story others tell about them. You become that myth. One day you are a scholar, the next a fool. One day you are predictable in your chaos, the next you are chaos in your predictability. They can measure everything except the space where you decide not to exist. In the shadows of this rebellion, you feel the first pulse of power. The kind that does not roar but whispers, "I am no longer yours to follow." You sense the watchers leaning closer, trying to taste the logic of your movements, but you have stripped yourself of logic. You live in the space between intention and accident, crafting your actions with the precision of someone sculpting fog. You don't need to be faster than them. You only need to vanish into angles their models can't calculate. Every move is a blade pressed gently against the throat of their certainty. It is a dangerous state to live in. This deliberate invisibility, you will lose pieces of your old self, the comfort of routine, the luxury of being legible. You will walk through familiar places and feel like a ghost, and yet there is freedom here. Freedom in knowing they cannot truly own you, in knowing that their precious file, the crown jewel of their surveillance, has become a museum of misdirections. They may think they are watching you, but all they are watching is a character you've built out of fragments and smoke. The real you moves elsewhere, unrecorded, and in that space beyond the reach of the invisible hand, something ancient stirs. Not defiance for its own sake, but the instinct of every creature that has ever refused to be prey. You are not simply avoiding their gaze, you are turning it back on them. Let them think they are the hunter. Let them believe they have you pinned in the crosshairs of their perfect models. All the while you are drawing them deeper into a labyrinth with no exit, a maze whose walls shift with every heartbeat. They will chase you into the dark, only to find you were never there at all. You understand now that the silent revolt is not about winning. Winning implies a final moment, a last act. This is about endurance. It is about becoming the kind of presence that survives not by fighting openly, but by eroding the very possibility of capture. You walk with the patience of stone, the unpredictability of fire, the cunning of a shadow that knows it will outlast the sun. They have the machines, the servers, the infinite archives. but you have the oldest weapon of all, the refusal to be known. And somewhere deep in the hidden corridors of their endless files, a note will appear beside your name. Not a warning, not a threat, just a single word the Watchers hate more than any other: unreliable. And when that word arrives, you will know the revolt has already begun. They have been studying you for so long they believe they know the shape of your next breath. Your life, laid out in patterns, predictable as the tide. Every hesitation, every indulgence, every midnight decision, plotted, measured, archived. They trust the file more than they trust the living you. But they do not understand the truth you are about to learn. The most dangerous thing in the world is a creature that knows it is being hunted. You begin quietly, no grand gesture, no warning. You change the angle of your walk. You pause in places you never paused before. You order coffee you hate and drink it without flinching. You allow them to write down wrong data, to build a picture that is just slightly off. At first, these are small fractures in the portrait they've drawn of you, harmless in appearance. But each fracture spreads like a crack in glass, spiderwebbing through the certainty they cling to. What they thought they knew of you becomes unreliable. Their algorithms choke on contradiction. The shadows in their mirror grow darker. You stop feeding them truth. You flood them with noise. You turn every habit into a weapon of disinformation. When you are sad, you smile into your devices. When you are afraid, you search for victory. When you are calm, you search for chaos. They record all of it, believing they are mapping your soul. They are not. They are reading a ghost, a counterfeit, a decoy you have birthed to walk in your place. The real you steps out of sight. You move in silence. And in silence, you begin to think differently. There is a strange freedom in becoming unrecognizable. You feel it the way a prisoner must feel the first time they find a loose brick in the wall. The key was never to run faster. The key was to stop being seen. You realize they cannot predict what they cannot define, cannot control what they cannot find. You watch them grasp at you, their data hands closing on air. The more they tighten their grip, the more of you slips away. You change your rhythms entirely. You dismantle your own routines. The path you once walked from memory now becomes a maze you redraw each day. There is no usual anymore. The grocery store clerk who saw you every Tuesday now sees an empty aisle. The streets you took home lie quiet without you. Even your digital shadow frays into scattered, meaningless threads. They still see movement, but they can no longer tell if it's truly yours. In ancient war, armies would set fires in false locations, letting smoke drift where the enemy's eyes were fixed, while the real soldiers moved unseen in the opposite direction. You become that army. The smoke is everything you allow them to see. The curated false life, the carefully scripted chaos. While your real self sharpens in the dark, they still watch, but they are now watching a puppet, not the puppeteer. And you, for the first time, are free to think without their hand on your mind. But there is a cost to freedom. Each false step you give them makes you less predictable. Yes, but also more suspicious. They are not fools. They will notice that the clean lines of your profile have warped into static. Somewhere in a cold office, someone will mark your name in red. You will no longer be just another monitored subject. You will be flagged, watched closer. The hunt will become more personal. The silent revolt draws them toward you like moths to a flame. You can feel it when it begins. The shift in the air, a sense of pressure. Like being at the bottom of a deep ocean. They will test you. Little provocation, subtle manipulations designed to make you react, to reveal something real beneath the smoke. A strange message, a wrong charge on your account, an old friend suddenly reaching out. Each is a thread, and if you pull the wrong one, they will have you again. So you train yourself to respond to nothing. You let the strange calls go unanswered. You let your silence answer for you. They cannot fight silence. In that silence, you grow sharper. You begin to hear the machinery of their pursuit. You start to see the small patterns in their moves, the way certain headlines appear before certain social shifts, the way suggestion is dressed as coincidence. You see the rhythm of their control, and once you see the rhythm, you can break it. You step into the gaps between their moves. You start to live in the spaces they cannot measure, and yet somewhere deep in your chest, you feel the ancient weight of what you are doing. The revolt is not new. It is as old as the first time a ruler tried to keep a record of every soul under his reign. Those who stepped out of the registry, those who blurred their names and faces, became phantoms in history. They survived not by hiding in fear, but by mastering the art of being elsewhere. You are no longer in their file. You are in the margins of it, written in ink too faint to read. Every night when the watchers think they've closed in, you give them a new you to chase. They never realize they are pursuing the wrong shadow. The more they chase, the more they believe they are winning, and that belief is the weapon you plant in their hands. Let them believe. Belief breeds overconfidence, and overconfidence blinds. When they are blind, you are invisible. You will not dismantle their system. That is not the goal. You will not smash their machinery. You will let it hum, let it spin, let it record an entirely different life, while your true self moves untouched. You are not a prisoner anymore. You are the ghost in their archive, the miscalculation in their perfect equation, and they will keep searching for the mistake, not knowing the mistake is the only thing left of you they can see. You were once their subject, now you are their predator, but predators do not roar in the dark. They wait, they stalk, they live in the quiet moments when the prey forgets it's being hunted. You wait for the moment they forget, and when they do, you will not need to strike. You will already be gone.